Doubles and coffee, Barbados style. The Honorable Mia Amor Mottley. You see I put on my yellow? You have a problem with yellow and yellow is the code? Mia Amor Mottley. The Douglas try to stay out your business. You run your election, snap election. But why did you get emotional on the platform last evening and admit that you were side by side with Keith Rowley? That you were connected and had an affinity, a friendship, side by side with Keith Christopher Rowley.
I have stood shoulder to shoulder with Keith Rowley,
the leader of the PNM, former, and the former Prime Minister, Mia Amor Mottley. Your emotions got the better of you because now that you have confessed to your intimate relationship with Keith Christopher Rowley, your closeness, walking side by side with Keith Rowley, you have a few questions to answer for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Who authorized, who asked the Barbados authorities to allow a CARICOM Impacts jet containing Trinidad and Tobago Police Service members to land on the sovereign territory, the tarmac at Grantley Adams Airport in Barbados, to then deplane and kidnap citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Brent Thomas, out of his hotel room duly paid for in Barbados, without paperwork, without an extradition paper, without following natural justice, without following the rule of law. Mia Amor Mottley, who in the PNM government of Keith Rowley, since you stand and walk side by side with them, words out of your own mouth, who called you or your government to ask for permission for a CARICOM Impacts jet to land in Barbados with Trinidad and Tobago Police Service members? You must now answer, Mia Amor Mottley. You got emotional. We thought it was an intimate relationship. We thought it was strange that when the issue came out and Justice Javindra Rampasad said that it was a kidnapping, when your Attorney General has admitted that Barbados heard that you all were wrong and Brent Thomas is going to get an undisclosed amount of money not only from the Barbados taxpayers but Trinidad and Tobago too. And for the people of Barbados, I'm just reminding you, Keith Christopher Rowley, who stands side by side with Mia Amor Mottley out of her own mouth, that she stood side by side with the leader of the PNM Prime Minister, Keith Christopher Rowley. Keith Christopher Rowley was in a battle, a ring-down battle with then Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith. So much so that Keith Rowley, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, went to the President Paula May Weeks when a merit list for the selection of a substantive Commissioner of Police was duly completed and signed off by a majority of the Independent Police Service Commission. The Paula May Weeks, the President of Trinidad and Tobago, by Section 123(4), she shall pass that list. Once she receives it, she has no choice, she has no discretion, she must send it to Parliament. Keith Christopher Rowley went to her, whispered something in her ears, and caused the collapse of the merit list, caused the collapse of the Police Service Commission. Trinidad and Tobago was without a Commissioner of Police. Keith Rowley then went on the war path against Gary Griffith with FULs, which is firearm users licenses, talking about corruption. He paid for reports, he paid for investigations, he sent his police to harass and harangue arms dealers in Trinidad and Tobago with reputations without any blemishes. Brent Thomas was one such person. Brent Thomas was hounded by police, hounded at his establishment, locked up, treated without natural justice. He gave a letter to the police and said he's going on the way to Miami to see his doctor. He's not healthy. He was in Barbados on his way in transit. And a plane from CARICOM, you see, CARICOM, and now Mia Amor Mottley has lifted the lid of the corruption, the nepotism, and the elite boys club in CARICOM. She just admitted it all.
I have stood shoulder to shoulder with Keith Rowley.
So a CARICOM jet, Impacts jet, landed in Trinidad and Tobago Trinidad and Tobago, 3 or 4 police officers from Trinidad and Tobago got on that plane. The plane took off towards the sovereign nation of Barbados, landed on the tarmac, the sacred tarmac of Barbados. The Trinidad and Tobago police officers, without paperwork, without extradition, without warrant, without charge, landed, got the Barbados constabulary to meet them. They went jointly to the hotel room of Brent Thomas, woke him up at 3 a.m., slamming on the door, banged him up, roughed him up, threw him in a cage without water and food for 12 hours to sit on the tarmac in Grantley Adams Airport. Then they threw him back on that plane and brought him back to Trinidad and Tobago without paperwork, without extradition, without charges, without warrant. When the judge heard that, the judge described it as a kidnapping. Mia Amor Mottley, you have just admitted that you were close with Keith Rowley. We've been asking you for years now, 2.5, 3 years. Who asked you, who requested of your government permission for Trinidad and Tobago police officers to land in the sovereign nation of Barbados?
Representatives last weekend to the programs. But instead, you find yourself on Trinidad and Tobago television, TTT, telling people about yellow. Yellow is the code, yellow is the code. Because if that is the case, then Errol Walton Barrow should now be rolling in a watery grave to believe that anybody leading the Democratic Labour Party would want to make that party a subsidiary of another political entity in the Caribbean. Errol Barrow stood shoulder to shoulder with Eric Williams. Tom Adams stood shoulder to shoulder with Eric Williams and George Chambers. Owen Arthur stood shoulder to shoulder with Patrick Manning. I have stood shoulder to shoulder with Keith Rowley.
Who, Mia Amor Mottley? Was it Keith Christopher Rowley who you stood side by side with through your mouth? You open your mouth. Was it Keith Rowley who asked you? Was it Fitzgerald Ethelbert, narcolepsy, sleepy, sativa, ride a horse with an 8-year-old boy who was then the Minister of National Security? Was it him? The Attorney General of Barbados, you must speak up now, because Trinidad and Tobago is listening. The people are listening. They want to know who was complicit in the kidnapping of Brent Thomas, a Trinidad and Tobago citizen. And as the judgment came down, Mia Amor Mottley, Keith Rowley just went to Barbados, check the record immediately, trying to say he went there on private matters. I have information on the ground in Barbados that Keith Rowley came and met with you, Mia Amor Mottley, Honorable Prime Minister. Answer the question, did you meet with Keith Rowley for any reason or for any amount of time to discuss any topic, whether familial, personal, family, superficial, or to discuss keeping the secret of what took place in the kidnapping of Brent Thomas involving the PNM government under Keith Rowley and your government under you, Honorable Prime Minister? Please alert the nations of Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, since you have confessed that you walk side by side with Keith Rowley.
I have stood shoulder to shoulder with Keith Rowley.
And for you to say that you walk side by side with a miscreant like that, a pathological liar like Rowley, an oppressive, tyrannical dictator who was defeated, his former and his former 28-13 should have been 31-10 if it was not for the splitting of votes by Shalini Pandey. And you walk with that man, the man of Email Gate, the man of Inez Gate, the man of Landy, the man of Scarborough Hospital, the man of Greenvale, the man of Las Alturas, the man of Renaissance, the man of discussing Patrick Manning, that he worked OB on him when Manning was ailing and dying. That miscreant, that man who was a teacher in 1969 and impregnated a girl of school age. You, Mia Amor Mottley, admit that you walk side by side with that man. You walk with that clown. You walk with that person that has been rejected by not only Trinidad, but the entire island of Tobago, where he was born in Mason Hall. From Mason Hall to Whitehall, 14-1 and 15-0. You stand side by side with him. Well, tell the truth now, Mia Amor Mottley. Who asked you to allow the CARICOM Impacts jet to land in your air, go fly in your airspace, land on your airport in Barbados, containing Trinidad and Tobago police service members coming without warrant, without paperwork, without following the laws of natural justice, without following the rule of law, to kidnap a Trinidad and Tobago citizen out of a hotel room he paid for and throw him back on the plane like a dog and bring him to Trinidad. Now over to you, Honorable Prime Minister, since you have admitted that you stand side by side in a brotherhood with Keith Rowley, a brotherhood of wrongdoers. I listen for your answer, Honorable Prime Minister Mia Amor Mottley.
Telling people about yellow. Yellow is the code, yellow is the code. And what is that really a code for?
And yes, yellow is the code. Yellow is the code of return of power to the people, a taking away of power from the elites, the boys club, those who walk side by side and share power and share corrupt thoughts and share oppressive ideas and hold on to power, not caring about the people. Yellow is the code of the return of love and heart and respect to politics. Yellow is the code where the resources of the people shall be distributed to the people, for the people, by the people. Yellow is the code that is against the elites that you think you are, that your arrogance talked about, that you think you control different governments because you have a brotherhood of wrongdoers. Yellow is the code of the people. Yellow is the code of the poor. Yellow is the code of redistribution of resources. Yellow is the code of fire burn the elites. Yellow is the code of fire burn the PNM. And since you have an affinity for PNM, ma'am, you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. But I want you to answer those critical questions. The people of Trinidad and Tobago deserve answers. Brent Thomas deserves answers. The people of Barbados deserve answers. And you've just admitted that you had an unholy alliance with the PNM and Keith Christopher Rowley when he was Prime Minister, and Brent Thomas was kidnapped by Trinidad and Tobago police officers with the help of the Barbados Constabulary under your watch, permission granted by your government. To whom in our government? Please let us know. Full disclosure, please. Thank you. This is just the humble Douglas asking you a question, Honorable Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Amor Mottley.